Welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about the tier placements I did 2 weeks ago, which of course need to be corrected because now I have more knowledge. I have played at least 200 games since then, and yeah, we also have a patch rolled over this whole system, which was the patch 6.11 that changed some stuff in particular, but not everything towards the finished version of how the balancing should be. So yeah, we're going and looking forward with this, and hopefully Square will try and continue with all these fixes in the very, very close future so that this balancing can be the best out there. And I think it's very close actually. But yeah, there are some differences that we want to talk about today. First of all, the Dragoon, which I consider my main job right now in PvP, which is the basic reason for that is because it's so fast. I love it. I just love how fast you can deal damage, how fast you can kill targets, how basically you can use the sloppy engine to proceed in killing people. That's just so cool, and Dragoon is one of the best, if not the best jobs in doing so. And it's also kind of straightforward to play. If you just don't mindlessly rush in there and get killed quickly, you should be fine, and you should proceed in dealing a solid amount of damage. So to be fair, it's A. It's A because no crowd control, and crowd control is still king. If you just know how to play a samurai, for example, you can deal the same amount of damage as a Dragoon, or at least very close damage, still have the big crowd control advantage. Yeah, let's talk about the samurai, which is a perfect connection to the Dragoon. It kind of has everything that the Dragoon has. It's a bit more difficult to be used as the Dragoon's kit, for example, but it's so strong if you can utilize that potential. Like, if you can basically kill a whole team or block the team's advance by having the limit break ready and keeping back the cheat-in buff. Because when they hit you on the cheat-in buff, you can just kill them. They are dead. They can't avoid that anymore. If they got hit, you use the limit break, they are dead. And that's an advantage and mechanic that you can really use to block the team's advance significantly, or actually kill a whole team if they're not being careful enough, or just haven't tracked that you have your limit break ready. So this alone, plus the usual kit making the samurai very defensive, even though the patch 6.11 brought a nerf to the defensive value of the samurai, it's still going strong. I have read a lot of comments that Dark Knight is way better now and a very, very solid option to play, but just compared to what the other jobs offer, in my opinion, it's a B tier because of how much stronger a warrior is, and I think even the paladin is the better tank choice here. Yeah, because I don't know why they didn't do that, but the Dark Knight needs to have a very, very frequent stun that it should have access to. The warrior can deal more damage as a Dark Knight while still being super, super tanky. Way more tanky than the Dark Knight at least is. And the limit break kinda is a letdown for me because it doesn't offer any offensive value except that you're just straight up having a second chance, a second life, surviving like a madman. But yeah, if people just ignore you, there's no value in that. That's the biggest problem in my opinion. I know, with key mechanics and strategy, especially if we would have pre-made system, you could utilize that potential, but right now we don't, so it's hard. I think if we had pre-made system, Dark Knight could be here, but as long as we just have the solo queue and Dark Knight is kinda one for themselves, it's definitely not the best tank in my opinion. I'm sorry to say that. I hope they fix that, at least give him some more damage. Maybe grant the Shadowbringers attack a stun effect that can work every 20 seconds or anything like that. That would be a very quick fix that I can come up with right now. Not something I thought about for too long, so don't quote me on that. Yeah, next up we got the Ninja. I would say straight up with the Dragoon. A bit more crowd control, a bit more utility to avoid damage in the form of just being in stealth and you can't see the Ninja. And yeah, the limit break has the potential to be better and more kill efficient than the one of the Dragoon. But yeah, placing damage can be very hard, and I have seen many ninjas not succeeding in this form, so kind of on par with what Dragoon offers. I think you have the same win chance with one of these jobs around if everybody has the same playing field and playing ground and skill level. You can always choose a samurai, but it's no problem if you choose a Dragoon or Ninja instead, for example. They work in the same way if you utilize their potential properly. Alright, so next up, White Mage. I think Square didn't know that the biggest problem of the White Mage is actually not the limit break. It is a problem. It's very strong still, and the biggest reason why White Mage is still the strongest healer and one of the strongest jobs you can choose here is the transformation. The transformation is something you can't remove with Purify. You can't use Recuperate while being transformed. I think they should change that, actually. I think you should be able to use Recuperate while being transformed. I think that's the change they need to do for the White Mage, and White Mage would be here, easily. That's still too powerful because you don't have any way of countering this. You can't use Guard, you can't use Purify, you can't use Recuperate. You can't do anything against the transformation. If the enemy team is hungering for blood, they can kill you in that moment. You're dead. You can't do anything against it. That's why I think White Mage is still a bit overtuned. Change that. People can use Recuperate while being transformed. Nothing else but Recuperate. That should be fine, so that at least when they have full resources available, they can do something against incoming damage there. Okay, Summoner. I don't know. I have seen very good Summoners in low ranks that totally destroyed the enemy team by their damage output, but I feel like they fall a bit short because of how slow the damage is being processed, and yeah, that your only kill potential is the charge, where you also have to go into melee range, being very, very dangerous for a Summoner that only has 50,000 HP, which is very, very low compared to others, and is basically 25% less than a tank has, or 20% less than a tank has, which is a significant value. Don't underestimate how much that can make a difference, because how burst is being handled, and yeah, having the higher headroom for surviving is key. I just know that because when you play a warrior and you have the boost to your HP pool, your max HP pool, you're basically indestructible at that point. You have, I think, 76,000 HP or something like that, and you're indestructible at that moment. You can't be killed. Really. If you're not being outnumbered completely, or your team doesn't do bad mistakes at that point, you are immortal. And even if not, you might still be immortal if you're utilizing your self-heal kit and all that together with it. So right now, it's just a bit too slow for the high speed and high pace of high-ranked games, in my opinion. But you can play, I think, in between these, all of them have part in the meta, and you can really rank up high if you just are a good player and have the patience to sustain the up and down mechanic of how your ranking system works in Crystalline Conflict. Yeah, let's talk about the Paladin, which in my opinion is slightly better than the Dark Knight, but I know that some people would disagree and would swap these out. But through the experience that I collected in just Crystal Rank, Diamond, or whatever, that every time a Paladin could play and utilize the kit of the Paladin properly, it was way more of a use to the team or the enemy team than the Dark Knight was. The Dark Knight is always like, it's there, but as long as you ignore it and focus on the other targets, it doesn't get a big threat to you. That's just my experience as a Dragoon. Maybe that is different for caster jobs, so I'm not completely sure. You could place them on the same spot here, but I would say the Paladin is slightly more useful because the defensive potential at least has some value. Like, Paladin in a limit break or when everything's ready can't be killed and is the same level of tankiness as the warrior. I would love to see the change happening to the cover ability, that once you use that as Paladin, use cover on any other party member, that the damage is also being mitigated to you and not just transferred completely towards the Paladin, which is bad because then if burst damage is happening, you could possibly die by yourself. Yeah, you can use Sheltron to avoid that in that moment, but it's still a bad thing, and you should be rewarded for using this in the right timing and mitigate damage by doing so, not just totally transferring the damage in general. Okay, Black Mage, straight up B, because it's Black Mage. No, in all seriousness, I think Black Mage is super map dependent. While it's kinda a good choice on Cloud 9, for example, where you can freeze targets, especially, and when you use that properly, the freezing mechanic with the clouds lifting you up into the sky, this is very, really powerful. So in Cloud 9, I think it would be here. Yeah, not S tier, but A tier. But unfortunately for the other maps, because of how problematic these line of sight situations are for casters, like you can cast, but then targets or people that know how to deal with line of sights from WoW or whatever, you can strike down a black mage by just using the mechanic of line of sight and dipping your damage in, then moving back and returning behind the pillar, taking cover, and black mage is not able to utilize that properly and is not keeping up with the pace of a dragoon, for example, or with other jobs that are quicker in their procedure there. So I would say Cloud9, maybe A, but on other maps, especially the Fire Volcano map, that's horrible. There's a lot of line of sight happening there. You have a lot of movement to be processed, but I think the line of sight is the biggest problem, and that's definitely something they should work on. Maybe grant the Black Mage a bit more instant spells. When utilized and when being hit by the freezing mechanic at the wrong situation or wrong moment, you're dead. It's kind of fun to see that. It's so long. I think 4 seconds or how long that lasts. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Next up, the warrior. If there would be any job that really outperforms all other jobs, even the white mage, it would be the warrior. So you could possibly place the warrior into another tier over the white mage because of how ridiculous the warrior kit is. I don't know. Whoever thought of the idea that you jump into an AoE stun onto your enemy team makes sense for PvP. This is simply stupid. Just remove that. Just remove that. Give the stun affliction to a single ability so that you can only stun a single target, and put it to the charge instead, for example. Or even put it to the chain mechanic. You should not have this as well. It's ridiculous. Warrior is just bonkers. Too bonkers, and even beyond that. Warrior is crazy. It's just too strong still. But at least when it comes to teaming up with healers, I would say the Scholar was my worst experience because of how ineffective dots are. It's hard to tell. I would place it to C because otherwise people are getting mad again because I'm not using the full tier list idea that you have 5 tiers and there should be a job in each tier here. So it's really hard for me to tell about this when I haven't played it myself and maybe have found out some very cool tricks to still be good with this and utilize this kit. But yeah, don't get me wrong, you can still play these jobs here. It's still Final Fantasy XIV, we're not talking about WoW. You can still be good with these jobs when you just are a good player. You can utilize their potential easily. This kind of leads us to the same idea of the Reaper. Reaper is, in my opinion right now, really, really falling behind. Simply, yeah, even though it offers the fear mechanic, the crowd control, you can't use Purify against fear, so the Reaper might actually be a very strong choice here if CC is on your top spot, but just the other kit is so clunky and so advanced, especially the mechanic of how you stagger damage and then this damage is being dealt in one time you activate this ability. It's just too complicated for the speed and pace of PvP right now. I think they should just rework that a bit. Reapers are good. They deal good damage, but I think they just lack everything a samurai has. The defensive potential that a samurai has, the limit break kill potential that the samurai has, and is still not on par with the Dragoon or Ninja damage output. Take it up, try it out. Don't listen to this fool that only played Dragoon, Warrior, White Mage, and Summoner and Red Mage, and doesn't have any single clue about the other jobs. Okay, Bard. I think from the ranged physical roster, it could be the best if there would be a pre-made group system, but unfortunately there's not. And sometimes it's kind of a situation where you have to be lucky that your kit is being utilized, that people are being aware of that you have the limit break ready, that you started the limit break, that you used it, that you make them stronger, that their limit break recovers quicker, as long as you don't have clear communication with your team through the party chat or through Discord or whatever. So as long as this is existing, it's hard for me to recommend this any further than, I would say, the B tier as well. I think it's kind of here with with Black Mage and Summoner. These are not bad. They work. They work. As long as you can utilize their potential, they do work. But I feel like there's a better option, which definitely is the Machinist. And Machinist, I could actually place here, because of how powerful it is that you can destroy barriers and pierce through guard and kill enemies from such a far distance that they don't even realize they are in combat with you. You can kill them without... You're basically Hitman. You can kill them without their noticing that they're in danger. So that's really, really good. But I would just say, due to how powerful samurais are, and that Machinist still has one weakness, which is the cast time of your blast charge mechanic. If blast charge would be an instant, I think it wouldn't be that fun, but it would be definitely stronger, because yeah, blast charge gives you this disadvantage when you have line of sight happening in maps like the volcano map. Cloud9 Machinist would be here, and in the other maps it's A tier. I think it's a solid A tier. It's not better than a Dragoon or Ninja, so Samurai is, I think, still the top choice when it comes to this. Yeah, let's talk about the Sage. The Sage is, in my opinion, here, because it's still a bit too far behind a White Mage, but deals so much damage and has very, very good potential to keep your team alive and sustain a very defensive nature on your team, defensive aspect, guard your team up with offensive spells that heal your team while still dealing tons of damage. The only thing that the Sage is having in disadvantage to the White Mage is the missing kill potential. Like, I have been killed by so many more White Mages than I have been killed by Sages, even though the Sage at the end of the match had been the top damage output. Like I said, top damage output doesn't mean anything if you can't secure kills. And that's why Dragoon, for example, is very powerful, or Ninja is powerful. They do deal a lot of damage, but also secure a lot of kills. And Sage can't do that properly. But of course, they do offer defensive abilities, what the other jobs in the A tier here can't, except the Paladin, which is the reason why Paladin is there as well. Gunbreaker, still, even though they buffed it, I can't ignore the Gunbreaker. And Gunbreaker is something you should be aware of, but nothing you should focus, nothing that is super dangerous when not being targeted at all. So you can basically just kill everything and the Gunbreaker last. That would be the target if you do a dungeon pull in Classic WoW. That would be the target that is put into Sheep and be ignored for the whole fight and then being killed at the last point. They really need to give the Gunbreaker a very powerful stun. I love the idea that the kit is so different right now. But yeah, maybe give him a fear. Give him something like that, like the Reaper has at least. The fear or a freeze or whatever. Any mechanic that might not be an exact stun, but something that executes interruption into the enemy patterns. And that's important. And if a tank doesn't provide that and doesn't have the damage at least on par with what the other DPS jobs would offer, or what at least the Warrior would offer, Warrior can be on top of the damage. Can outperform Dragoons, Samurais, and Ninjas when you're really, really good and have a good run. So that's definitely something the Gunbreaker is lacking, and it's C tier. Which leads us to the Red Mage. Red Mage, I would say the nerf is significant. Not a deal breaker, but something that reduced the OP... Did I say P? The overpoweredness of the Red Mage significantly. But it still falls into this spot here. It's not anywhere close to this. I would say if you would build a team, look no further than this combination, and then choose something from the A tier here, and you're fine. But you could also choose something from here if that would be the optimal setup. But Red Mage is still so strong. The silence effect is still super powerful, and burst damage is good. You have support abilities by changing the black shift to white shift and using your barrier, then swapping back over to her flare. And yeah, your limit break is... I would say the limit break is not the best and strongest, but when used at the right spot and the right timing, it can really secure the kill, and one of the best choices that you can make. And if paired up with White Mages and Warriors and Samurais, it's so powerful. Especially with White Mage and Warrior. Like, the crowd control is synergizing so well and complementing each other. Okay. Dancer. What do I have to say about Dancer? Dancer still feels a bit too insignificant. It kind of falls into the same category of, yeah, you can just ignore it. damage is dealt so quickly and depends so much on the exact timing of the exact person dealing damage. And that means because of having no communication, you can't time that with a dancer. Like, the dancer just has to fish in the dark and use the buffing tools whenever he feels to, hey, my dance partner is bursting right now. Maybe I should use my stuff to grant him the upper hand. I think you have to be really lucky that you perform kills with that procedure happening. Maybe they should redesign the whole idea of the dancer. I love that they tried to stick with the dancer nature, but I guess for PvP it just doesn't work in that way. You have to deal your own kill damage and you have to secure kills by yourself, and I don't feel like a dancer would ever be a threat to me when I'm playing a Dragoon. Even when I'm very low on resources, I can just outrun the dancer by just walking away. Like, yeah, of course, the dancer could kill me, but at the same time, I'm regenerating MP that I can use Recuperate again, or my team is recovering, coming back, helping me out. At least that's my Dragoon experience or my Warrior experience. Dancers were no threat to me. Monk, on the other hand, could be the job that annoyed me the most and destroyed me the most, actually, because of how the stun mechanic works, of how they can remove guard, and how the 7th hit of their combo is literally just obliterating you if being used properly. That's something you should consider, and you're only dealing significant amount of damage with the 7th attack of your hit combo. But yeah, when you put this out and when you have the proper timing on this combo, you are insanely powerful, and Monks are just beating the shit out of a Dragoon. That's just how it is. Okay, so last but not least, Astrologian. I've never seen an Astrologian being the game-changing element to your victory. It's really hard to see. Even though it might have deflected incoming burst damage or mortal damage that could kill your whole team, it doesn't bring you anything if you survive an assault and then don't get the counterattack because, yeah, your healer is lacking the abilities to do so, like a White Mage does. Like, White Mage can do that. Can jump in, can defensively play out the limit break, for example, then heal up everybody, can shield up the target that is the lowest, and then counterattack with the crowd control, for example, with the transformation. Killing one target, definitely. If that moment happens and they go out to kill you, you counterattack, use the transform, and go all in on that target. This is the kill for you. So, yeah, it kind of falls a bit short on this aspect. It could be here, maybe because of how the Sage is working in the same way, but just deals more damage. But I would say it's a bit better than the Scholar, but less good than a Sage, and definitely less good than a White Mage. And of course, yeah, you can combine that with all the other jobs in these tiers, because we don't have role dependency here. But yeah, that's my extensive thoughts. I'm sorry about the length of this video already. But yeah, let me know if you agree or disagree. And yeah, that's basically it. No tier list coming before 6.2, except we're seeing significant changes to PvP in between, which I actually don't think that will happen. But maybe. We'll talk about that. Maybe not in a tier list format, but I will just keep you updated about what's happening on the PvP sector. It's not perfect, but it's way more fun than ever before. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.